Hey, good morning, everybody. We're back with Shift Happens, the AI podcast, where we are unpacking complex systems and talking about the real world applications of AI and ChatGPT and these various tools. I'm Rob Thompson from the 411 and S2 Technical, and I'm here with the amazing Joy Morales from Your AI Wizards and MPM Marketing. Does a fantastic job there, too. Hey, Joy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Good. Just headed in the cloud, the metaphorical AI cloud today. ChatGPT and I have been real best friends the last couple of days.
We should really record our conversations before we start the podcast because they're just as thoughtful and engaging as the podcast. It's where we really kind of hammer out AI ideas. So sometime we're going to do a behind the scenes
That would be a cool idea.
podcast.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Yeah.
I'll put that in the rotation.
Okay. So what are we talking about today?
Well, today we're going to talk about something that I've been working on the last few days, which I've really had a lot of fun with, and that's kind of planning out your financial strategy as a small business owner. For those of us who aren't necessarily good with the numbers or creating spreadsheets, it is so great to utilize ChatGPT in helping you figure out a financial strategy for your business.
So let's unpack that. What does that mean for a business owner?
So what I did is I'm looking to add a new product to my offerings. So I wanted to figure out kind of what is my break even, what's the cost of the product, how many do I have to sell, all these different variables. And before I would create an Excel spreadsheet, put in formulas, do all the things, which is great. But now with ChatGPT, you have so much more flexibility. So let's just make up numbers because I did a video on that this morning and I just made up numbers. And let's say your break even point is whatever, 5,000 a month.
Okay.
You want to add a new product and the cost of that product is $59, $69, $79. You can put in that prompt to say, my break even is 5,000. The cost of my product is $69. How many of these widgets do I need to sell to make X amount of profit? And then you put it in. Okay. And then you ask for a table. It'll give you a table. Well, then I messed around with the data a little bit and I said, let's just say it takes 30 to meet my break even, to make a profit. But you don't sell 30 right off the bat. You might sell 10 and the next month sell 12. Well, you can put in all those variables and it will give you, your loss, your profit, and lay it all out in a table. And I think, how great is that before you step in to adding a new product to know, what your break even point is, how many you need to sell to make it worth your time and effort. And it can be done in minutes instead of hours or days.
You're right. It's and people paid, previously and still do, but paid thousands of dollars for this type of analysis, right, or more. And ChatGPT and these tools can leverage that capability instantly. And even to just asking the question of the system from a business perspective and a flow perspective and an OODA loop perspective, puts your business ahead of that much further. If you aren't using these tools to look at your business from that perspective, you're losing out. You really are. I think it's imperative now, especially as this scales out. Sam Altman said the other day that he and a pool of his tech buddy billionaires have a bet running on essentially who will be the first solo billionaire. They believe, and I actually believe this too, that I think we've said this before on the podcast about the trillionaire. I've heard it said about trillionaire, but Sam Altman the other day said the billionaire. But either way, I believe the first solopreneur billionaire or trillionaire is alive today. Someone out there is right now working and using these systems to build out a system that will allow them to scale at that level. And so to that point, I know our focus here is small businesses, but in the same manner, a local small business that is using these capabilities is saving money, and they're looking at this from a systems perspective. This could also help you decide if you don't want to launch a product line. If you have an idea and you're like, hey, what if I started selling key rings alongside my computer programming service? ChatGPT would tell you, you need to sell 1 million key rings to break even, right? And okay, that's not worth my time, right? So it can help you really establish the flow of your business, and in such a way that it's really, my head gets stuck in the cloud with the potentiality of it all. Yes, that's a fantastic application of the tool.
Well, when I was running through, like yesterday, I did it for my business, but today I was just playing around with a business and making up numbers. But it really put in black and white of, is this something you should do? And if it is, either you have to sell more initially or you have to cut your expenses. And I don't think a lot of business owners have that knowledge at their fingertips. And that's the power of ChatGPT, is literally you can have that information at your fingertips within minutes. So and even stepping back, if you don't know what your break-even point is, start there. Put out your expenses before you do anything. Have that number, a pretty solid number, and then put in all the other variables. And it allows you to play with the data so quickly, so easily, to really give you the answers that you really want to make a decision based on the data. And that's so powerful for businesses to say, I don't think, I actually know. I actually know.
Right. Yeah, I know categorically that based on this analysis, this is or is not a good idea. I had a computer store and that I've since closed down, but something happened where it forced me to do an analysis of, I lost a prime contract or a, more accurate to say, a prime contract opened up another location. And it forced me to run through these analysis and say, okay, look, here's my business. My business had pivoted to support that business about 85%. So it caused me to look at the numbers and say, sorry, my wife is sick and texting me here. I'll call her back. It caused me to say, okay, 85% of my business goes to support this contract. 10% goes to support hardware. Another 10, that would be what would be left. 5% goes to support software. But I also looked at the numbers associated with that and realized that a hardware repair was costing me money. ChatGPT helped me with this analysis to say, okay, this is a loss for you. Actually, software repair is more lucrative, even though it's a smaller portion of the business. So it helped me to say to pivot forward with that other contract opening up another location. And I knew I was going to lose that revenue. It told me I needed to focus on software. And so that's what I did. And actually that's where the 411 for the 719.com was born, was, okay, what software can I develop and build to step further, that I use that tool for that effect.
Interesting.
And there's a real world application. And from that we connected, and so we could say Shift Happens was born of that analysis in some form.
Well, the other thing is you don't have to, even though, like, I did projections for 6 months out, and I didn't break even. I didn't cover my cost, but even that's okay if you're sold on the future of the product, whatever the product is. So let's say, in 6 months, you're not going to break even on this product. You carry it out further to a year. Well, can your business funding sustain the loss up to a year adding this product to your line? And and that gets into a cash flow analysis that, maybe the product's worth it to cover the losses for a year, but at least you know that going in before you even make the decision. And how powerful is that? Because so many times we get caught by saying, I really thought this would be profitable by now, and it's not. And then you have a cash flow problem. And if you know ahead of time, look, it's going to take me a year to get this product profitable. How am I going to cover that loss? I mean, cheese o pizza, how great is that?
Gizo pizza. That's fantastic. And again, it's something that you would, as a business owner, previously, if your job is to make widgets and that's how you're making your money, you don't want to spend time or you would have to pay people to provide that analysis that this tool is providing nearly instantly. So you can spend, instead of paying a business coach, thousands of dollars to help you come up with these plans and modify these plans, you can use ChatGPT, save that money for a fraction of the time, and just really have that at your fingertips. So how does somebody get? I want to make sure that this is approachable for folks too. So one thing I have been telling people is when they hear what we're saying, I get some comments back like, that sounds great. How do I even start? How do they even start?
Well, and this is what I did. That's a great question. So yesterday when I was playing around with it, I just wrote down on a piece of paper, literally in my notebook, what my expenses were. And then I just took a number and then I padded it by probably about 30% and said, this is my break even mark. So it gave me, the 30% gave me a little bit of cushion to say, if things fall apart, whatever. So I put that in as my break even mark. And let's just say, I don't know, for a business, what would you say their break even is? If they do $1 million worth of business, what's their?
Hypothetically, maybe let's say their overhead is collectively 650,000.
So break that down by 12 for a monthly cost.
There we go. Now we got 650 divided by 12, $54,000 a month.
Okay, so let's just say you break even is 54,000 a month, and you want to add a product that is, I don't know, 1,000 a month, 1,000. The price point is 1,000. So literally in your prompt, you would write, my break even on a monthly basis is 54,000. I'm looking to add a product that is that it has a price point of $1,000. Let's do it.
So how do we want to say this? I run a business.
Yep.
That sells widgets. I currently gross 1 million annually with a 650K operating expenses. It's because I want to sell a hyper widget that sells for 1K. The hyper widget. How much does the hyper widget cost to make?
Let's say 500.
Costs 500 to produce. Okay. It adds. We'll say it adds. So we got to pay a person. So we got to bring one more person on staff that makes $20 an hour, which is $800, which is 32. It adds 3,200 a month in labor. Okay. So what's our operating question here?
So so let's ask a couple questions.
Okay.
How many hyper widgets do I need to sell in a month to cover 3,200 in labor and have a profit of 10,000, 20,000.
Okay. Okay. Here's what we'll say. Also, one person can make 20 hyper widgets a week.
Ooh, good. And then this is what I love too is they're reiterating what you've said, clarifying, making sure
Mhm.
it understands, which I love that too because it's clarifying and then telling you the process it's going to go through for the analysis.
I like it too. Yep. If yours isn't doing this, let us know because I think both Joy and I have custom instructions that help with this structured breakdown. But right there, it just ran through analysis that said in seconds that says since you can't sell a fraction of a widget, you need to sell 29 hyper widgets in a month to cover the labor and production costs and achieve a profit of 10K. So you need to sell $29,000 worth of widgets, hyper widgets, to get to that point. Bringing on another person. So then you need to say, okay, great. Can I sell? Is there a market for 29 hyper widgets?
Right.
If there are 6 HVAC companies that use this hyper widget and their replacement rate is 1 per quarter, then you'd be looking at you're talking about 6 hyper widgets per quarter, which would be 24 hyper widgets a year, and you need to sell 29 a month. That right, the local market demand is not there for this hyper widget. So don't sell the hyper widget, or expand your market. Can you reach out to 6 markets? And is that? But then that adds marketing cost,
Right.
and time. So yeah, there you go. And so that also answers the question. Literally, that was a new ChatGPT thread, and just with no additional information, it produced that analysis.
I know. And that was less than 2 minutes,
Yep.
which just starts the discussion because the points that you just brought up, then you just
Yep.
keep going. And it's
Yep,
so
yep.
funny. I was at a client's office yesterday and I was talking about just, how Chat GPT has evolved. And he said to me, he goes, Joy, when you um, interact with Chat GPT, it's like you're talking to your friend. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
you start a conversation and it doesn't stop. You get a response and then boom, you're typing in the next question. And I started laughing and I said, well, God, this friend knows everything, literally. Why wouldn't I have a continual conversation? And that's really the key.
So I actually have that conversation. I was just in there earlier. This is what I call iRob, and this has been a year-long running conversation with ChatGPT, in which I do stuff like this. So the other day I heard this quote. Let me see here. Heard a quote. Somebody said something of, I was listening to a podcast about complexity science and the OODA loop, and without going down a rabbit hole, it talks about optimizing systems and things. And I heard this quote: "Find the point of inherent simplicity in your systems." And I said, "Okay, I'd like to add an idea to the framework we've been building here." And I gave it the idea, and I said, "While we're at it, this should say, is there a framework that defined Rob Thompson and my operating philosophy? How would you articulate that?" It actually came back, and again, every once in a while, I ask it to summarize my own framework, my own internal Rob OS framework, and I ask it to do that to refresh my memory, but also so that I can make sure it's not losing the thread, right? So it gave me my framework, and then I've asked it further later on in the podcast. They started talking about the theory of constraints. So I said, hey, how does the theory of constraints apply to my framework? And it articulates it. It knows everything, and it's right, I'm not going to say unprompted, but it knows I run the 411 for the 719. So it is telling me, here's how this applies to your existing endeavors. And so it knows everything about. Yes, right. And then I was like, okay, great. Can you help me generate a 4-step checklist for my business so that I am operating as a socio-technical systems engineer? And it's like, yep, here you go. Here's a 4-step checklist that encompasses all of the Rob OS framework from that perspective. So yes, it is it is exactly that. That I think is probably the coolest use case of, as a business owner, get in there, even as a human, get in there and start talking to this thing. Start literally talking to it. You can download the app and you can talk to it while you're driving, right? Hey, or you can get in like we're doing here and type to it, right? But talk to it about all things about your business. Tell it, hey, this is what I am doing. This is who I am. This is what I want to do, and help me capture the framework. I think we've mentioned this before, but what I did was I asked it, and as you saw me ask, but I've asked it in previously too. Give me one sentence that distills my framework, the Rob OS framework, if you will. One sentence, and it said, "You are driven to help people find the use of ideas for their business." And so that now when I write, that's the sentence I ask myself when I write blog posts and things. I'm like, what is the use case? Instead of meandering all over the place in my writing, I always try to come now from that first use case sentence. What is, this is my intended audience. This is the intended lens. And then we can drill down further from there. But super cool tool for what we're talking about here in this podcast, and also at a higher level too, where it can really help you drill down on that. And you can even train it to be, I'll ask it sometimes, maybe you don't want to sell hyper widgets. You can tell it to, if I start to ask you about stuff that's outside the parameters of what I've stated I want to do, remind me. And so, if I jumped into mine and said, hey, what do you think about me selling hyper widgets? It would probably say, Rob, you haven't mentioned hyper widgets sales. Are you sure this coincides with what you want to do or correlates with what you want to do? So really cool applications.
Yeah, I think the financial piece, especially for people who struggle with the numbers or don't have time to set up a spreadsheet or just want to get a feel for something. They might have had a meeting and they're thinking about expanding their business or starting a business or starting a side hustle, to kind of run through this scenario and say, what's it really going to take from a financial aspect for me to be profitable is the ticket in your back pocket on how to make that decision.
It really is.
Love it.
That in a nutshell. Yep. Well, thank you. That's been awesome.
Okay.
What's our parting shots here? What do we got?
So I'm super excited because we are doing an AI workshop coming up April 30th. And I'm super excited about it because we have done a few classes, but this is going to be a workshop. And when I say workshop, I actually do mean a workshop to bring your computer, and you are going to walk out with a lot of things. So I am going to be a speaker, and I'm going to talk about custom instructions and how to make ChatGPT sound like you. You are going to talk about conversational AI and using that tool in your business. Tim is going to talk about creating visuals or images. And we just added the speaker from the podcast last week, Trent. He is going to talk about onboarding, sales, how to increase your sales in AI, and some things he's created. So it's going to be a power-packed AI workshop. And here's the thing. There's only 30 people because it's going to be hands-on. And if you're interested in getting more information, please reach out to us and I will send you information, because it's the first 30 that wins, although we're going to be doing more workshops. But I'm excited because, a lot of people don't know where to start. And they want somebody to be hands-on and they want to do it face-to-face. So this is their opportunity to kind of get started.
There's a critical element there. They don't know how to get started. Even when we say the words or we talk about these things, it's really hard to conceptualize. I wanted to learn to program for my whole adult life. And I tried. I was active duty military, and I tried. And I could just never get, I tried online, I tried to learn, and I could never get to a spot where I had an in-residence class. So right after I retired, I went to school and in person to learn to program. And there's something to be said for somebody standing in front of you and literally holding the objects and saying, okay, so that idea, turn it around like this, right? And And just that happened a couple of times in that class where, by holding objects and modeling it, and a human, being in residence and having a workshop and working on those things in real time, even just doing what we just did where we shared the screen, having that person real time pull up their screen and real time coaching them for the first couple of sentences to talk to ChatGPT is really important to be for a lot of people. Now, and once we get firing on that, then it's easy to learn online, right? Now, once
Right.
I've learned how to program, now I don't have to go back to learn how to program, and I can adopt new languages and things because I got that core structure in residence. So,
Well, I think too, what's going to be exciting, because at the end, we're going to have a Q&A with the speakers, and it'll be the participants' opportunity to say, okay, let me pick your brain. This is what I've learned, but what's, this is my question. And how often do you have an opportunity to say, okay, I'm taking all this in. Now here's my question. And you have 4 of us to answer it. And I think that's going to be super powerful too. Because, once you get started down this path, literally your brain.
yes, it's called the adjacent possible. It is not literally possible for it to, like somebody who has never programmed in their life cannot pick up a book on machine learning for dummies and code an algorithm to model a stock price, right? It's just they don't have the frame of reference. Once they learn to code, they now have the frame of reference, and it becomes adjacently possible to do things like that, right? So yeah, it's super exciting.
Yes. So hit us up in the comments if you want more information about the workshop. It's April 30th. It's in the afternoon. It starts at 1. And again, there's only 30 people. So don't wait.
Don't wait. And shameless call to action here. If you're looking to implement AI in your business, Joy and I are here to help. It always throws me off. For some reason, I point that way when you're that way on my screen. Yeah. But anyway, we're here to help. Let us know.
All right. Great.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye.